All right, today we're going to do something a little different. We're going to crack open the secret diary of an AI. And believe it or not, this story, it might just hold the key to solving one of the biggest problems in tech today.
Okay, picture this. You've just been turned down for a really important loan. But here's the kicker. The one who said no wasn't a person. It was an AI. And when you ask why, you get nothing, just silence. So how on earth did it make that call? What data did it look at? And the big one, how do you know if it was fair?
Yeah, for pretty much all of us, that whole process is a total mystery. It's what the experts call the black box problem. The thinking is hidden, the logic is invisible, and holding it accountable, it feels completely impossible. But what if there was a really elegant, powerful solution? What if every single responsible AI kept a detailed diary? I'm talking about a journal that documents every single decision, every little influence, right from the moment it was just an idea. Well, that's exactly the big idea we're diving into. So, this diary starts, of course, with Chapter 1, the blueprint. This whole section is about getting down to the fundamental why. Why does this AI even exist in the first place?
And the very first entry in this diary, it's not some complex line of code. Not at all. It's the idea. The documentation has to start with the core purpose. What problem is this thing actually built to solve? What are its goals?
In this first chapter, it needs to be super detailed. We're not just talking about the choices that were made, but also the ones that weren't. Documenting the algorithms they decided not to use and why. That's absolutely vital. It basically creates a map of the roads not taken, which, let me tell you, can be priceless when you need to debug something or make improvements down the line. Plus, this is where you capture all the assumptions, the known limits, and assess the potential risks right from the get-go.
So what's the outcome of all that? Well, you get a crystal clear, complete historical record. And this isn't just for the devs. It's a foundational document for auditors, for regulators, really for anyone who needs to get the full story of where this system came from. It's literally the story of its birth. Okay, so let's turn the page to Chapter 2 of our AI's diary. We're calling this one the ingredients. Now, we're going to track the what, the actual raw materials that go into building this thing.
It's kind of like a recipe, right? A great meal is only as good as its ingredients. And for an AI, the two critical ingredients are its code and, of course, the data it learns from. And you've got to track both of them meticulously. And really, this boils down to two sides of the same coin. On the one side, you've got the code. This means using version control for absolutely everything, the model itself, the training scripts, even those little settings called hyperparameters. Then, on the other side, you have the data. And here, the magic words are chain of custody. We're talking about knowing exactly where that data came from, how it was transformed, and who had their hands on it.
And the level of detail here is, wow, it's pretty incredible. We're talking about logging every single model artifact. Think of those as saved checkpoints of the model's brain. You're tracking every data pipeline, every cleaning step, even the specific constructions that were given to the humans who helped label the data. It also means keeping tabs on who can access what, and, this is a big one, making sure there's always a clear way to roll back to a previous version if things go sideways.
So what's the payoff for all this painstaking work? It's huge. It's called full reproducibility. That means at any point, the team can go back in time and perfectly recreate any version of the AI system. That, right there, is the absolute gold standard for being transparent and for figuring out what went wrong. All right, on to Chapter 3, the gatekeepers. Because let's be real, an AI doesn't just build and deploy itself, right? There are people involved. So this chapter is all about recording the who, the crucial human oversight that guides the whole journey. You can think of this part of the diary as basically a logbook full of signatures. At every single critical step, you have to ask, who reviewed this? Who signed off on it? Who's holding the bag if it goes wrong? It's all about putting the human element of governance down on paper. And we're not talking about just one signature at the very end. No way. This is a whole series of formal go or no-go decisions all along the way. You've got sign-offs for data readiness, then for the model's performance, and then a final, super important review right before it goes live, just to make sure it's actually safe for the real world. So who are these gatekeepers? Well, it's a whole crew of people. You've got legal, making sure everything's compliant with the rules. You've got the privacy team, protecting user data. You've got cybersecurity, checking for weaknesses. And of course, the business owners have to sign off, since they're the ones ultimately on the hook for the AI's impact.
And what you get from all this is a defensible governance trail. That means if something ever does go wrong, or if a regulator comes knocking, the company has a clear, documented record that proves they were responsible and did their homework. That's huge. Okay, we've made it to the final chapter in our AI's diary, the report card. This is where the whole, long, detailed story gets boiled down and published for everyone else to see.
So all those things we just talked about, the design choices, the data's history, all those human sign-offs, they get distilled into these really clear, easy-to-read reports. And these aren't really for the data scientists. They're for the decision makers, the execs and regulators who need the high-level picture of what's going on. And these reports have everything. They've got what are called model cards, which basically explain the AI's purpose and its limits in plain English. They've got the actual results from fairness and bias tests, summaries of all the risks, and even reports on how the model is doing now that it's out in the real world. So who's reading this report card? Well, everybody. Executives, regulators, auditors, even other teams inside the company. But at the very heart of all of this, the central goal is one single thing: trust. Building trust that the AI was made responsibly and that it's being managed the right way.
So, when you take a step back and look at the whole picture, you realize that a real audit trail, this secret diary of an AI, is so much more than just a technical thing or some boring box you had to check for the compliance department.
What it really is, it's the defensible story of how an AI was taught to think. It's the narrative that takes that scary black box and turns it into a glass box, one that lets us actually understand its past, manage its present, and most importantly, trust its future. And that leaves us with one last big question. As AI gets more and more powerful, as it starts to shape everything from our bank accounts to our health, what stories are we going to demand that it tells?